basis.
I know.
No, that's fair. Anyway. Good afternoon, Facebook. I'm here with my friend Matt Phillips.
How's it going?
Good to see you, dude. I'm very good. How are you?
I'm really good. Yeah, I'm totally stoked up on coffee at the moment. So sorry about anything I say.
Just come out 100 miles an hour. So how long have we got? Because you've got to go and teach, right, after this?
Yeah. Do you know the time of the bus? I don't know. Let's say 45 minutes.
Okay. Right. I've got a car actually. I'll give you a lift.
Oh, okay.
It might be slower though, to be honest, driving into something. Anyway, so Matt, what do you do?
So thank you. Yes, my name's Matt Phillips, and I'm a sports therapist and running technique analyst at Studio 57 in Stride UK, along the road.
Cool. So you're the running guy.
Pretty much. It's not only runners I work with, but over the years it's kind of been fine-tuned to mostly runners. Yeah.
Nice. And you also lecture on
yeah, and I forgot all about all of that. Yeah, so I also teach A&P at a couple of colleges, and I write in a couple of publications, and presentations and stuff like that. Yeah.
Cool. Got any published research?
No, not that I can talk about at the moment. No.
Oh, I like that. Yeah, so it's classified. Right, so how did it all start?
So, do you remember the Fitness Factory?
Yeah.
It's now called Alive, I think.
Yeah.
That's Street. Yeah. So I worked there back in the old days.
Castle Street, right?
Yeah. With Dennis and Andre Dutra, and so I started off doing my YMCA fitness certificate back there in the 90s, and stayed in gyms for a long time.
As a personal trainer?
As a personal trainer, moved on to David Lloyd's, kind of specialised a bit more in rehab and strength and conditioning, and did National Academy of Sports Medicine certifications and stuff.
Cool.
And then in the meantime, Mitchell, my brother, who you know,
I know Mitchell as well.
he was getting into the massage side of things and the sports therapy. So for a while we were like at David Lloyd's, the kind of Bendham and Mendham brothers, where he would kind of bend him downstairs and I'd bend him upstairs. And then I started getting interested in it. It was all very well making athletes stronger, but I was interested in trying to help them with injuries rather than just sending them all the time down to Mitchell.
Yeah.
I thought I'd like to know a bit more, so I got into the sports therapy side of things and mixed them together. And then, the rest is just picking things up along the way and experience, and
Cool. And you've always been in Brighton?
Let's have a think. No, I haven't. I lived in Spain for 9 years, Australia for a year.
Okay.
I moved around, worked in the Midlands for about 6 years.
Doing like massage and PT out?
Always, yeah. Well, in Australia, that was when I was 20, so it was more, I come from a martial arts background rather than running. So in Australia I was more involved in training and working with martial artists in gyms. And then I came back and my teacher kind of changed, and it was kind of Shotokan guy, which I wasn't very big on. It was all a bit strict.
As opposed to one right.
As opposed to, no, we were doing, again, only old people from Brighton will remember the Zen Chuan clubs with Andre Dutra. So Andre was amazing, and if he's, he won't be listening to this. Well, you never know, but it was a great club. It was really good. For a while there was kind of Sama and Zen Chuan in Brighton, and we had kind of competitions at Lanes Bar and stuff, and the Town Hall, and it was really wicked. It was really great. And there was no MMA or anything. It was all just Van Damme time. So kickboxing was huge.
Shiny trousers.
Yeah, it was all shiny trousers. I still got footage of the first fight I had where I came in with this. It was like something out of the jacket Rocky wore for one of his films. I think my mum made it. It was just this red and yellow big gown. And it was brilliant. I still watch it now.
I've heard about that. I wasn't actually going to pull you on it.
I can't wait till I show it to my son when he's old enough. If I start hitting people's not necessarily bad, but yeah.
But then, won, right?
I won. Yeah. Only just because I also had the keys to the gym I worked in and thought it'd be a good idea the night before or the day before to spend all day in the sauna, not realising that can slow you down a little bit.
Just a little bit.
Yeah.
That's what the greats do, right? Yeah.
That was my first realisation that certain forms of therapy and treatment are not good at certain times.
Yeah, it's like an acute versus a wider effect.
Exactly. It was incredible. After the first round, he was like, "What's up with you?" I said, "I can't move my arm."
That happens anyway.
Can't move. Yeah, but anyway,
cool.
That was years ago.
Yeah. So I've got a feeling that might be quite nerdy today. It might be quite technical.
Okay. That's what I do. That's fine. Bring up the nerd in me.
So you niched down quite heavily I'd say now from PTE to massage to being a running expert. Was that always a plan, or did that kind of flow? Or
it kind of came out of so when I left martial arts, I got more involved in running myself, especially half marathon distances. And when you're in the crowd, then you're mixing with more runners, and word gets around, you work with runners, and so it was kind of through my own personal experience. Yeah, and I think in this business, you tend to specialise in what you do. So if you're going to see if you're a tennis player, you're probably best off. There are exceptions, seeing somebody, a therapist who does tennis, or if you're a fighter, you want to go see somebody who's either fought or trains fighters and stuff. And so if you're a runner, then you want to go to somebody who's run, because you can experience, you can appreciate and empathise.
Yeah.
So and then it just comes along with just a passion for studying and learning and just being critical. That's been the best thing in my life and the worst thing, just trying to pick everything, playing devil's advocate, and
do that. If that's your personality type, like that's one. But you can make a living out of that. But that's a win, right?
Yeah. And once you do, especially in our industry, whether it's strength and conditioning or massage or therapy or anything like that, physical therapy, once you start getting that thirst for picking things apart, you realise that probably 80% of what you've been taught in college or school is not as black as white as it sounded.
It's funny, because I was talking about this last week. We had the bass player about unconscious incompetence, conscious incompetence, and that sucks. And then there's like conscious competence and stuff. But there's a bit in between, I think, in nutrition and diet, nutrition and training, where you're consciously incompetent, but you're even more conscious of how incompetent everyone else is.
Oh, right.
That makes you really angry.
Yeah.
It's like, so you just read that bit, a bit like a good Will Hunting scene or something. It's like, so you just learned this, and you realise that everyone else is out there technically ripping people off because they don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
But
it's weird up and down, because you have that. It's so difficult if you learn to be a critical thinker, which I think is really important. You go through these flashes where you think, I know everything, no one else knows anything. But then the worst phase for me is like Impostor Syndrome, which I've kind of suffered from quite a lot and still do, where you think, I don't know anything. I don't even deserve to see this person, because it's like, what do I know?
If you studied with someone that's amazing, and you know like where you are in the pecking order, but those are people that don't know stuff. But
it can be really tricky. And I think one of the biggest things in our profession is just to be at peace with the fact that we don't know everything. You've got to kind of embrace discombobulation.
Yeah, and like safe and effective. Is it making better? Is it doing harm? That kind of thing. And then do the best to your ability. But that's a bit deep, isn't it?
Oh no, forget that one. It's the coffee, mate.
Moving on. So your stance on injury assessment, because reading through your articles, I see you on social media stuff, and you seem quite agitated.
Again, it's the coffee.
No. In your posts about people jumping on the bandwagon over what is apparently nonsense, like pronation, this incorrect running gait analysis, incorrect gait analysis, and then static movement testing, or do you know what I mean, as opposed to in situ. What pisses you off most about the stuff that's out there in the industry?
I try not to come across as pissed off. It's just, I don't know. You. It starts off as anger. It's that thing, isn't it? Where I can't remember who said it. I can't remember his name. I think it was attributed to a World War II pilot or something, where he said, you can learn the truth, but first it'll piss you off, or something like that. When you have something which kind of challenges a lot of stuff that you learned, or if you tell somebody else, well, it's not quite like that. The normal reaction is you get annoyed.
Yeah.
And that's so true for myself.
You can't handle the truth, kind of thing.
Yeah, you'll get to the truth eventually, but first you'll be pissed off. And it's like, so you get that. And I think it's only as you get older you realise that being challenged and realising you've got to evolve is a good, healthy thing. But it still picks up sometimes, because when you try explaining to people, I still get runners coming in and they're saying, I went for a shoe analysis the other day and they told me I'm an overpronator. So I've been kind of realising, because I read around and that the whole overpronation paradigm of shoes, for 4, 5, 6 years, and I picked it up with someone who's known it for 10 years. So it's, that's just not science-based. It needs to be nailed very tightly and in a box and just never come out again. So it just annoys you when so many runners come in and they're still saying that, and you think, who's telling this thing? And who's making money out of this thing? And why have they got a nicer car than me? And I think
See,
it's the same with, because pseudoscience probably sells better than science, because pseudoscience, like traditional, all the things which aren't science-based, which unfortunately involves a lot of old school chiropractic, osteopath. I'm not having a go at osteopaths and chiropractics, for example, who have evolved, but old school, who claimed that clicking bones cures everything from period pains to headaches to acne. You know, that's what originally they proposed, and they're still kind of suggesting to people that I'll click here and I'll make everything better. And we know that's not true now. So when I get someone coming to me and they're saying, I'm like, well, what have you done so far? Who have you seen? Oh, I've been to my osteopath. That really helped. I said, oh yeah, so how long, how many sessions did you have? Oh no, I've gone every month for 2 years. And it's helping, is it? Oh yeah, loads. I think, well, what are you measuring that by? Yeah. If you've been every month for 2 years and now you're coming to me, you know, and you try not to be sarcastic, you know, it's like, what? It's tricky. So I try not to come across as angry, but once you kind of take the blinkers off and be critical, it kind of...
Yeah, there's a great quote from one of your things. So the ideal treatment strategy, or a valid treatment strategy, should include explanation and education as to what is going on, and a provision of clear structured plan what you need to be doing to fix yourself.
Did I say that?
Apparently, yeah. Mate, it happens to me all the time. I'm like, whoa, that sounds really smart.
That sounds really nice. Start reading this stuff, alright.
But yeah, you've got to teach people. It's the same here. It's like you can't come in 3 hours a week and expect, you know what I mean, for it all to click into place. You need to be eating right, sleeping right, and just keep coming. That's win the argument with yourself in your head. But yeah, as a therapist, you've got an hour a week's not going to cut it, and yeah, you've got to show them why. And that's the other thing as well, right? 'Cause it's not just, well, you've got a tight hamstring. It's why this is happening.
Exactly, it is. We've moved away in the years. Definitely in my profession, there's been a massive movement towards being the operator in terms of putting your hands on people and curing them and fixing them with certain moves and stretches, and to more a facilitator or an educator, where most of the work you're doing now is actually via what you're saying. Like in presentations sometimes, I have to be careful who my audience are, but these days you probably massage more with your mouth than with your hands. Is that not appropriate?
Is that why you don't work with men, right?
Exactly. But it's true. I mean, yeah, people come in and expect that, they think that with your hands you're going to change the length of their muscles, or you're going to like make them better, make the pain go away. And you might make the pain go away for a while, but the more powerful tool you've got when that person's come to see you is, while you're making them feel better and helping relax the nervous system, and that in itself will make the pain go away, you've got that hour or so just to talk to them. And it depends on that person. That's where the skill comes in as an educator, as a teacher, as a trainer, to be able to know how to talk to that person, how to use their language so they understand, how to make them realise that maybe they don't need to book in with you kind of every 2 weeks. I know, it's the worst business model there is, which is why I only do it 2 days a week now.
Yeah.
That's why I go teach.
Yeah, but it's funny that you say, so you're an educator, I mean, you give lectures, but you also get the point across in the same way, because there's no point in just telling someone like, here's a load of facts, you need to get it in their head, right?
Yeah.
So if you've got some treatment strategies or self-fixing strategies, you need to get it in the head in the right way.
It's one of the biggest challenges is because, like, patients or clients, I think in anything, when they walk away, they remember something like, I can't remember what the stat is, but it's a very low percentage of what you say. They'll go home and they'll twist it around in their minds, or they'll just pick up on a few words. So one of the skills which we need to have, and what really CPD should focus on, is talking to the client in their language, making sure that you get them to summarise what they've picked up from the session, what they need to be doing.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah. And that's one of the questions I try and ask people before they go is, right, so tell me if I've tried to do a little bit of pain education, so give me kind of 3 points that you've understood today. And it is a bit like a teacher. Yeah. You've got to be careful, because you can't patronise somebody. If someone comes in and you give them the same attitude as you would to a 16-year-old beauty student, and they're going to be a bit annoyed, but you've got to know how. But essentially you are teaching a child, you know, because they're full of these misconceptions, and you've got to kind of twist them around subtly.
Yeah. My kid came home and said, yeah, you know the Ice360, at night it turns into a flying saucer. Oh yeah. Darren told me, and he's 2 years above me. I'm like, oh God. But yeah, like I said, children with misconceptions.
But it's the same thing to the athlete or whoever comes to you, and they'll come out with something which you know is pretty much just as non-evidence based.
Yeah, that dogma.
You can't just turn around and say that's rubbish, it's bullshit. You know, you've got to because that will just annoy them, or they'll go away and say, oh, he's just dismissing everything I've been told by someone else.
Yeah.
So you've got to elicit in the information. That's the thing. You've got to help them. It's like when someone comes into the clinic and they'll go, "Oh, I know what the problem is. I've got really tight hamstrings," and because we all blame. As soon as something hurts, we say it's tight. It's kind of a word we use. But in reality, a lot of the time, it's not as tight. Because if you say your hamstrings are tight, and then I say, "Oh, just try and touch your toes," and you fall down and touch your toes, then obviously your hamstrings aren't tight. So I'll get clients to do this a few times, just so they can turn around and suddenly I'll hear the coin drop and they'll go, "I see what you're doing here." Your hamstrings aren't tight, are they? As their hands like wrapped around their ankles. And that's a much better way to teach someone so that they realise, rather than just saying, "Oh, this isn't a problem, your hamstrings aren't tight," because they won't listen to it. Because once they realise, "Oh, Jesus, my hamstrings aren't tight. Okay, so what is it then? What's going on? Why do they hurt?" And then you can go down the road of what they hurt because they're tired or you're overtraining or they're not strong enough, and kind of open up the door to some evidence based.
So I want to talk about that, the overtraining pyramid, that was cool, but also back to the end, so like tight muscles. So it's not that the muscles are tight, right?
A lot of the time, because the whole, I do go on about stretching a lot, but it just annoys me quite a lot. I think it is, again, coming from martial arts where flexibility and range of movement was obviously important. If you want to kick someone in the head, then you need to have not just flexible hamstrings, you need to have the control and the strength as well, but you need that large range of movement.
Yeah.
Working with runners, in theory, and I know a few exceptions, but you shouldn't really be trying to kick anyone in the head during a marathon or a park run. I think of one time I did see it, but anyway. So runners who are obsessed with stretching, you just need to stop and make them think, why are you looking for this range of movement? Think about when you're running, how high is your leg actually going? If you're sprinting, then your knee comes pretty high, and sprinters do need a certain amount of more flexibility in the hamstrings just to be able to incorporate that high knee.
But as a side note, most people don't know how to sprint. They run fast, they're just going to move my feet a bit faster.
Exactly. Unless they're doing 100 metres, I don't work with practically any sprinters. I mean, most of the people are trying to do a 5k park run, in which case they're running at speed which their knees aren't becoming that high, and they're not really. Research shows that running doesn't really demand much more range of movement than walking.
Right.
So if they've managed to walk to your clinic and come through the door and sit down, they've probably got enough range to run.
Yeah.
So, but we kind of have this idea, it's been indoctrinated to believe if something hurts, it's because it's tight. We need to get rid of that. And also, it just feels good. Stretching's great. Animals stretch, cats stretch, okay? But they won't do it for more than 5 seconds. I haven't seen my cat stretch before. It's every time it wants to jump up in the fridge or something. Yeah. It doesn't prepare itself. But we're obsessed to do it. Or afterwards, no. Yeah, to stop the soreness. Comms, onset of cat soreness. I don't know what it is. But yeah, so we are obsessed with stretching. But we have it's all this question of thinking, right, just stop for a second. Be critical. Why are you doing it? What's it for? How's it going to help you? And if people in all walks of life stop and ask themselves that a little bit more, rather than just copying the other person or
Ooh, I told you it was going to get challenging. Boom.
I'm not having a go, but it's just
no, but
you need to stop and think. Why am I doing this? Hold on. Why am I trying to touch my toes? Do I ever run touch my toes? No. So why are you trying to touch your toes? End of.
Cool. So it's not about your toes.
No.
And at the same time, is flexibility actually to do with muscle length, tendon length, ligament length? It's not. Is it more like a neural thing?
But there's that thing as well, and that affects a lot when people go to a therapist because they think they're going to stretch them and make them more flexible. Because the human body's strong. Fascia and all these components we've got are stronger than steel. So the idea that someone else can actually dig their elbows into you or put you in a position where they're going to make your it's scary to think that a third party could actually lengthen your hamstring. By you
get like PNF stretching and stuff and neural flossing and you're like, wow!
Yeah, but how long does it last for? Yeah.
So here's another quote from some clever guy.
Oh really? I'll show you.
It's the brain that decides how to what extent we move by comparing sensory feedback at that moment using a multitude of systems, combined with a stored memory bank from every movement you've ever performed in your life.
Hold on, but so you're telling me that the brain thinks and not a bit of muscle?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
The brain decides whether you can get your hand.
So the brain's in control, not that bit of chicken fillet that's sitting on the supermarket doing nothing. That's incredible.
I don't know. It's pretty out there, isn't it?
Sarcasm, it's the coffee, sorry.
That's
no, but it's true.
Yeah. Well, let's take that side. Have you got a reference for that? Have you got studies that show that the brain's in charge?
Yeah.
So
no, but it is a big factor,
Yeah.
And again, that's where things have evolved, and what we do as therapists and coaches, even running coaches, and everybody has had to realise now, since the whole central governor theory and the role of the brain in fatigue and pain and everything came out.
Central governor theory, sounds like you're talking about the collapse of 2008 here. So, right, central governor theory, talk to me.
No, so like it's that was one of the prime examples when the South African guy whose name now has escaped me, not Law, can't remember his name. It'll come to me in a sec. But it just made people suddenly realise that we think of like physical thresholds, like the whole lactate thresholds and VO2 max thresholds, and the idea that that is a physical threshold. And if we go over that, it's going to be critical and we're going to drop down.
Yeah.
But obviously our brain, which is main job is to protect us from danger, is never going to let us reach that physical threshold.
Right.
It's never going to let us get close. There's always going to be an actual threshold where the brain chirps in, and a threshold where your tissue is going to snap or break, or you're just going to blow up. Yeah. That's what the brain does. So it kind of highlighted the fact that the main threshold in our body is provided by the brain, and that's how it's a defence system. It would be a useless defence system if only kind of the alarm went off when we'd actually lost a leg or something. It would be rubbish.
Yeah.
So
like, kind of like gold medal syndrome. I don't know, I just made that up, but like well, you're running faster than you've ever run in your life, but you're going to win an Olympic gold medal out of it. So I mean, whereas your speed's faster than illicit VO2 max, technically you're doing something that isn't possible on paper.
Yeah. Exactly.
Is that kind of where we're going?
Yeah, and it kind of explains the whole idea. It's like that when you're running in a race and you're totally knackered in a marathon, and then suddenly you can hardly move, your quads are burning, and then you see the finish line and you say, "Oh," you sprint over it.
Yeah.
So if you really were at a critical threshold, then how do you suddenly, where does that reserve tank open up? And the answer is your brain has seen the finish line. Yeah. Well, that's the other angle. It's all in your head. Is one of the worst things. That's the big challenge for therapists who do embark on a bit of education and neuroscience, because it's not really all in your brain's in your head, but it's not all imaginary. You can't just go, I can do this. I'm going to start my marathon at this pace.
Like life coaching.
Yeah.
But like you say, little information is dangerous.
Yes.
Yeah, in the wrong hand.
Indeed, like this coffee. I'm buzzing.
Matt likes that coffee.
Totally buzzing.
Right, I've got a few things to talk about. Pose running. What do we think of pose running?
Pose what, like what you're wearing?
Yeah. Pose, kind of like
I think sometimes striking a pose when you run is necessary.
Let's get to it. Yeah. Pose running?
Yeah, so I mean, the other thing, so any system which is kind of a one size fits all is going to be flawed. So
like ask me about. See, that's just like anything, not just running.
Anything where they say this is the answer for you is going to be flawed, which discounts most things. Which anything, you name it. If it's being put on a DVD and commercialised and it says this is the solution to all your problems,
insanity,
and they don't even know you,
how
can they say that's the solution? They don't know you. So embracing human variety, which is a massive thing as well, just realising that everyone's different.
Tim Noakes?
I forgot we're on Facebook. Tim Noakes, thanks mate, that's the one, Tim Noakes. Sorry Tim, yeah, of course it's Tim Noakes.
The traffic dude. Is that someone else?
I know. So,
what were we talking about?
Human variance. I mean, that's such a... You can't say that anybody needs to do everything the same. And you only have to look at elite runners to realise that they don't all run the same. If there is one optimum way of running, then they'll all run the same. And it's true that, amongst the elites there's variance, but, all of us have... Well, no, not all of us. If you've ever done a marathon, or a few marathons, there's going to be that time in the marathon where you're feeling like God's gift to runners, and then suddenly this kind of guy, hunchback kind of character is going to come running past you, dragging one foot behind them, with this look on their face of pain, and you're like, well, I'm not having that. You speed up past them, and then they'll crawl past you again, and it's a massive insult, but it's a sign that we can't judge a book by its cover, that you don't have, there's no ultimate way of running or moving, it depends on the person. I mean, I know people who run in the strangest form of ways, and yet they can still quite happily do a 3 hour, 20-minute marathon. And we see it amongst the elites as well. So when you get something like Pose, which says everyone needs to run, I mean, Pose, I don't want to get Pose. Pose fans are really vicious, and my Twitter feed will be just full of anti.
But they still actually think it's a thing. So
yeah, I mean, any claim that you need to run at 180 steps per minute, for example, cadence is.
So Pose, obviously, most people maybe don't know about Pose. So it's like a forward lean, up in your cadence. It's kind of just emphasis on foot lifting rather than driving off the back foot, and he kind of cherry picked a lot of evidence. And wrote a book about it in the same way that someone can write a book about nutrition and call it the Backhouse method and say, this is it, I've changed so many people's lives with this, buy my book, and then maybe like Bulletproof Coffee.
Yeah.
And then by the time all the evidence comes out and it's laughed at, he's already made a Solomon book.
It's tricky because again, it's like Pilates, it's like Feldenkrais, it's like all these systems. I mean, including the guy, I can't remember his Russian name now. Whoever said Tim Noakes and bring his name up, Yuryov or something. I can't remember his name. But Professor Numrov, or I'm sorry if I'm insulting his name, but anyway, very ahead of his time and came out with some incredible stuff. And a lot of all of these people, they're not just idiots, they're very intelligent, often science-based people who at their time come out with some concepts. But again, you evolve and you realise it's not quite true. So this idea of gravity helping you when you run and using free gravity doesn't really help you when you run. It's a force that pulls you down to the ground and stops you from coming forwards. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the other bit about pose. If you fall forwards, gravity's pulling you forwards for yourself. I know, it's probably that. But yeah.
I mean, I had some guy challenge me online. It was like, I wrote a piece, just an example of what a pose sometimes, I don't want to generalise, but like I was suggesting or kind of saying that the arms don't provide any propulsion in running, not physically. I suggested that they can help you if you're tired and you can pump your arms, but the arms basically just counterbalance the legs. I said, so they can help you a little bit in propulsion indirectly if you're tired, and just pump those arms, and the chances are, because they counterbalance the legs will pick up as well, plus the kind of psychological effect of just pumping those arms. And he challenged me from a pose background and just said, Matt, the arms do not help in running propulsion whatsoever. He said, if you don't believe me, stand on the spot and move your arms and see how far you move.
But then there's a sprinter's drill where you do exactly that. You just pump your arms and you shoot across them.
But his logic was, you know, if you stand there and go like this, you're not going to move, so the arms don't propel you. And it's like, okay, mate, fine, whatever.
Because also that which brings me nicely into functional movement patterns and like, do you know what I mean? What's his name? That dude that wrote that cool book. Everything's connected.
Style it.
Functional movement patterns. Tony, Andy.
Who's in there?
Anyway, but you know, like
slings and posterior and anterior slings, like stuff.
All that
the body trains.
Yeah.
Myers.
Yes. See, big deal. Myers. Thanks for helping, guys.
Yeah.
Told you it was going to get nerdy today.
Tom Myers, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's again.
So he said the arms help him running, right? And sprinting and like rotation is like. Yeah. Because there isn't, the arms and legs aren't even separate to him. It's just one piece. It's anterior versus posterior. You're like, ooh.
That could be a whole new podcast of just talking about things like that, anatomy trains. The whole fascia thing is fascinating at the same time. Again, overdone. People often in these fads come from one really intelligent person making it. It's like core stability. Okay, so in the 2000 whatever with the Australian paper, and they came up and suggested, oh, it looks like the transverse abdominis actually fires a little bit before everything else, which is interesting. And suddenly that got sparked into huge core exercises. You need to brace and draw in your transverse abdominis and your multifidus and all this kind of core stability exercises. And it was too late when the actual original publisher turned and said, actually, it doesn't make much difference. It's not a big deal, because the DVDs and the classes and everything are just taken off. It happens so much in history. It's like with fascia. There's Gil Headley, is another one I use in my workshops, who's a guy who first showed this incredible video on YouTube, real enigmatic guy, about, he had this cadaver in front of him and he was dissecting it, and he's a really magnificent presenter, and he was saying, look at this, what he called the fuzz, and he was kind of showing how this fascia in the body, which is kind of joins muscle to muscle, it's like a skin that goes around and connects parts of the body. He says, look how it solidifies and turns into this sticky layer. He goes, and this is what happens if you don't move. The fascia gets tight, and that's what causes lack of mobility, which spawned a massive explosion of myofascial release and different techniques of loosening up this fascia and changing it from a solid state to a gel state. And it's still done today. And it was only later when Gil Headley actually realised, an amazing scientist, that what he was showing on a cadaver was true, but in order for the fascia to solidify, you had to be dead. So it's kind of...
That did spring to mind.
Again, too late. The DVDs are out, the workshops are out, the whole courses based on fascial release are out. And it happens so much in the industry.
You got Tabata as well, Tabata.
Yeah.
Nowhere, anywhere to mention fat loss in that thing. It's literally enhanced VO2 max for speed skaters, and that's it. And the intensities they have to ride at, it's like 180% of whatever VO2 max speeds.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was like, best fat stops workout. Let's do squats versus press-ups, Tabata style. Like,
I think it's a problem with how easy it is to advertise these days, and the power of social media, and just getting people on board. Because I see these posts appear in my feed, and like there's like thousands of people putting their thumbs up and copying other people on it. American posturology and these things that are being sold, and because the marketing's so powerful and good, and they can target you on Facebook, people just want a quick fix, and I just, just bores me.
It's all flash in the pan anyway, isn't it? It's not, oh yeah.
Sell so well, they drive such nice cars.
Yeah, darn it. Right, let's start with some Whisky and Barbells standards. If you could sample your life with one song.
Oh wow, this is on the spot. Okay.
I meant to tell you these ones before.
I don't know what you said now. One song.
Yeah.
Oh Jesus, what responsibility.
Okay, well, think about that for a minute. Or if there's one movie that changed everything.
One song.
Movie.
Oh, movie.
It's obviously Rocky IV, but I'm just throwing it out.
Rocky IV, I was in my younger days referred to as Drago for quite a long time. Yeah. So I had the blonde flat top and the muscles, but not anymore. Song, man, it's got to be Elvis.
Really?
Yeah, we can take your pick. The American Trilogy is always kind of just the journey of his. I wish I was in Dixieland. Yeah.
Cool.
I think, or it could be a Led Zeppelin, the Rain song.
Right.
I like songs which take you on a journey. So yeah, either Led Zeppelin, the Rain song, or Elvis Presley, American Trilogy would have to be there.
And what about music to train to?
Music to train to?
Yeah.
It varies. Depends on the session I'm doing. At the moment, I'm going through a cult phase. I'm trying to.
Okay.
Because I go mostly 5Ks with my double buggy with the two kids, and if they're asleep, or sometimes if they're not asleep, I just put my plugs in, and I need something hard and strong and heavy. So actually, at the moment, Ian Astbury shouting out some old school cult songs has been turning me on quite a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, I've got a friend who just rate the greatest rock vocalist ever. I'm like, no, mate. No.
It's a very personal thing what music you get on with it. Sometimes I'm in a good mood, I'm just going for a long run, and I love a bit of funk and disco, and even like, I don't know, it depends.
Cool. So, just being nosy, what would you bust out a 5K with a double buggy in?
Song wise, I do
no, 5K time with a double buggy.
Oh, about. Yeah,
is it just as a blue man?
Eh? No, there's no more. No, the latex has been firmly put away now.
Okay,
I've got a dad's bod.
And that was. What did you drag him around for? You were a pacemaker then, right?
What, as the blue morph?
Yeah.
I don't think anyone knows that was actually me.
I do.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So, if you remember a couple of years ago, was it the marathon?
Yeah, marathons and a half.
There was a blue man, just a literally blue, kind of kinky blue man. Really tall. With probably a sign on his head that says 3:40 or 4 hours.
It was all about, so I enjoyed half marathons, and I always joked that the only marathon I would ever run would be the Brighton Marathon, thinking that they'd never get permission. And every time there was like a Fatboy Slim concert and Brighton was just destroyed, I was like, yes, that means another year without a Brighton Marathon. And eventually my brother calls me up one day and goes, oh, guess what, you're running a marathon? I was like, well, no, I'm not. Because I just wasn't turned on. I didn't like running longer than like 2 hours maximum. And he said, yeah, we've got permission for Brighton Marathon and we're the official sponsors, and you're running it. And I was like, oh, Jesus, I did. So I had to think of a way where I could actually make it entertaining. So we had a little chat at Studio 57 and our colour was blue. And somehow within the course of 10 minutes and a few biscuits, it turned from blue t-shirt to blue balloon to blue morph suit. And I figured, well, kids love high-fiving runners on the way round. If you're 6'6", even better. If you're 6'6" and in blue latex, then even better. Cool. So I did my my marathons with other people and took people around and managed to do it just through being adored. Yeah.
Adulation.
And people hung out with me because they knew that in the Argus was always going to take a photo of a blue 6'6" morph. So
there you go.
I was surrounded by, it was beautiful.
Nice. Mona, have you got any questions for Matt?
The lovely Mona.
Mona's always got issues with
issues?
Running issues.
Oh, right.
Injuries. Okay. Not issues, just running issues. We're not going to fix people, we're just going to talk about running. Right? Does a great athlete make a great coach?
No. What? Next question.
Right, exactly. That's what usually happens.
No, not at all. No. I mean, like I said before, it really helps. I think if you are coaching someone, you need to obviously come from that background to appreciate the psychological and the physical aspects of it. But again, you need to be an educator, you need to be a teacher, and it's always been my gripe that not enough, definitely therapists, do courses which teach you how to teach, how to educate. They just do courses which give you another manual therapy technique, another incredible way you're going to fix someone with your hands. But there should be therapists should be concentrating on, right, I need a course to practice the way I can explain things, to explain pain to people so they don't think it's all in their head. Yeah. Using the mouth more rather than just relying on
that whole mouth massage thing.
I think it's an important thing. One mouth, two ears.
Trademark it. That's it. Who's been the biggest mentor in your life and why?
Again, it would have to be Otis.
And why?
No, biggest mentor in my life? I don't know. I mean, I stand on the shoulders of quite a few giants, but then as years go by, you realise they're not giants, they're just people like you and I who are just slightly ahead of their time. So, you know.
Yeah, and that comes back to like say that someone wrote one great article, but it's not the be all and end all.
No,
like,
it's
important.
Just
a stepping stones. Like, I mean, this would be anything if it wasn't Hendrix, and I mean, if it wasn't for, I mean, Hendrix and Van Halen, and then etc. etc. But there's no one.
I think it's important as well to avoid. I mean, when I was younger, when I first did my NASM, there was this Rodney Korn guy and Lenny Paradillo or something came over from California to David Lloyd's, and they came over and they were both, well, Rodney was obviously naturally huge, and very impressive, and they had this amazing way of delivering, and they were teaching us all about the links between the bodies. The information was great, but I remember that definitely treating them very much like gurus, and everything that comes out you just accept. Yeah. I think to be a critical thinker, maybe you only get it when you're older, but you need to naturally challenge what anybody says. It's funny, we spend all our time telling kids not, just listen to the adults, but once you reach a certain stage, past teenager, you need to challenge whatever you hear. And courses should embrace that. I think any course you go on, the person teaching you should say, right, challenge me. I don't want you to listen to everything I'm saying, just take it as gospel, come up with your objections. Yeah. If you're on a course and they're saying, right, we need to make sure the shoulders are level, because if the shoulders are unlevel, then that could be causing pain. If they stopped and said, right, anyone got any problems? You could turn around and say, well, hold on, my dad's got one shoulder higher than the other, he's not in any pain at all. That would be the end of the course, because...
Well, this is it, because how can they charge you money for that? So yeah, that's right.
Exactly.
But remember, one size doesn't fit all, and human variance and stuff like this, but what I'm doing is giving you one tool for your toolbox, and it's going to be a good one. Yeah. But again, not sexy, doesn't sell on Facebook.
It's like leg length discrepancy. Again, when I give workshops and that, therapists are taught if one leg's longer than the other, then that could be the reason why the person's got pain and issues. And I get everyone, if we've got time, it was a long course, right, everyone lie down, just do a little leg length test and just give me some feedback. Tell me if anyone here has got exactly the same leg length. Very rare that anyone's got exactly the same. Because we know that natural human variance means that it's more common to have one leg longer than the other than it's not. If you've got both legs exactly the same length, then you're actually the abnormal one. So everyone comes back and goes, yeah, everyone's got one leg longer than the other. And I said, right, who of you is actually suffering from pain at the moment? No, we're all fine. Okay, well, that's the end of that course. You take these away, and it's the whole structuralist problem.
Just going to read the next question, hopefully not.
Go on then.
Hang on. Here we go. Being a busy working mum, I struggle to fit in all the training I want to do. What, in your view, are the 3 most effective training sessions for a marathon? Do you mean per week or? 3. Right.
Well, you've got to, if you train for a marathon, then basically what we kind of present is, it depends on the stage of the marathon, if it's the starting out or how fit you are. It's always going to be with me, it depends who you are and how fit you are, but essentially at some point during the marathon you've got to be working on your aerobic fitness, which often people lose out. 80% of the time you've got to be running at kind of 3 out of 10 efforts. You can breathe conversation wise, that should be 80% of your running, so your long runs. And then 20% of the time you can devote to your high intensity stuff, which could be hill running or interval speeds. That's when you're going to increase your natural running pace. So yeah, they're your 3 sessions really, maybe some intervals, some hills, and then your long runs at the weekend. And it's mainly a case of intensity, making sure you're working very easy 80% of the time and hard 20% of the time. And that's where a lot of runners go into problems, because they'll work either hard 50% of the time.
Does that sound familiar, Mona? Working too hard too much of the time?
Yeah.
just saying. But yeah, that's so interesting. As you say, it's just so Dan Dawson just calls it get the miles in your legs. Right, just go out talking pace. I don't think he runs at talking pace for like 4 hours a day, but can keep up with him for 1 minute.
Exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, so literally is a kind of a bit of a jog or a fast jog.
80% of your running for training for marathon needs to be practicing the body running at your marathon pace or slower initially. So, and that's an easy rule to tell someone, because most people when they go out for their Sunday run for the marathon, they start off running at their 5k pace.
Yeah.
Or they've got to calculate their target time based, and you can do that easily with a calculator online.
Well,
and then
funnily
go out.
enough, because yes, we've talked about this before, and just because you can bust out a 22-minute 5k at max effort, if you work backwards, that says you should do like a 3:35 marathon or something like that. And it's like, well, hang on, what? That's my all-out effort.
Yeah.
So that's going to be an all-out effort for a 3:35 or 3.5. That's hard to work out. Right? It should not be the other way around. It's like, if you can do a 3.5, you can probably do it in 22 minutes. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, they're surprisingly accurate, the formulas you've got, like the Jack Daniels formula, not that Jack Daniels, not on there, but the formulas you've got online which calculate according to the longer the distance you put into the equation, the better. So you're better off putting in a half marathon time to calculate your marathon time. But it surprises a lot of people who don't realise you put in your 5k time and they'll tell you, well, with that in mind, you should be running maybe a 4-hour marathon, in which case your pace per mile is going to be this much, and they realise, oh my God, I'm running way too fast on my Sunday runs.
So do you put the marathon pace on the long runs? So should you just all your long runs do the marathon pace, or less than?
As you start off your marathon training for 16 weeks, the first few should be slower than your marathon pace. And then as you get to the middle, then practice marathon pace. And then as you get towards the end, your marathon pace. And then create that fatigue at the end by sticking on a progression run. So maybe the last mile or 2 or 3 miles at an advanced pace to try and kind of mimic that fatigue again and feel at mile 20. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Nice. That was useful. That was, yes. So in a training environment, because sometimes people don't get it when asked this question, what does it take to get the best out of you?
Me?
Yeah.
In a training environment? What do you mean? In what sort of training?
Like if we were in a class or we were out on a run, what's going to elicit the best performance from you?
Probably leaving me alone, just letting me do it by myself. I don't know, maybe it's most runners. I work best by myself. I'm not a very sociable runner at all. The more I can disappear into me.
We were in a kickboxing class and we were injury free.
Right.
And you were getting tired.
You reckon you could do?
And I had to shout at you. I didn't shout, "Come on, mate, you're doing really well." Not sarcastically.
No.
Or, "Come on, Philip, pussy, man up," or something in between. Or do you know what I mean? Or,
I see what you mean.
So I knew you were going to bail on this. Or so like, what is it? Is it pressure? Is it adulation? Is it just positivity? Is it smiles?
I'm kind of a tick wish guy, I suppose, like most people. If you stuck in there like this is great, I love what you're doing there, but try and do this, that kind of...
a shit sandwich.
Hey?
Shit sandwich.
Is that what it is?
That's what I call it. No, it's like, this is really good. This bit sucks, but well done and trying really hard.
That's me. That'll work. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I think most people respond to that. I don't respond well to being bullied. Kind of, especially if it's in a fighting environment.
Okay, let's take it to an academic environment and you're up against it, or you're presenting some research and you want to give the best possible answer. I've lost my train. Don't worry about it.
I think people eliciting the thing for me, like I like being set a little problem and I work out myself. So if it's like a kickboxing thing or something, then someone say, okay, what are you going to do if your opponent's suddenly got on the inside of you? Or just envisage it and then leave it up to you to make the change or something. And it's the same with academia. Like rather than someone just spoon feeding me like this and this, it's like, hold on, what about if the client came and did that? What do you think? And that's the way I teach myself. I try and turn it round so that I elicit the answer from the actual person, give them a few tools, and let them come up with the answer themselves. Yeah.
Because the answer's within.
Exactly, the answer is always within.
Like Kung Fu Panda.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, which you can do. It depends which one you prefer.
Yeah, I think we both know. Right, I think you probably got to get to school.
Wow, really? That's just a blur because of my coffee. I hope that came out okay.
I think it sounded pretty good.
Was it? Was there some useful information?
It was good because, and the stuff that applies to life, don't follow the herd. That's pretty universal, right?
Yeah.
And basically, overpronation is bollocks.
Yeah. It's unclear. It's unclear.
It depends. Yeah.
Yeah.
And critical thinking, Question everything.
Question
Yeah,
everything.
that doesn't apply
Yeah.
just to running technique, does it?
It's everything. Whether you're a therapist or a runner, just don't believe the profession you see has got all the answers, because we haven't got all the answers. If we had all the answers, then there wouldn't be injury businesses all over Brighton and everyone trying to do it. You know, everyone would be cured.
But I think maybe the biggest one is like if you've got a therapist or you're seeing a therapist, they're not trying to educate you or change something.
Yeah. The more time they're doing something to you, then you got to ask yourself questions, because there's very little we can actually do to you physically with our hands that will be a long-term change. It just doesn't work that way.
Because it is actually funny when you sit down with an osteopath or something, the first one, they get their pen out, like, right, case notes from that, let's have a case history.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, boring, just like stick your elbow in my back.
Important. Yeah, there is that.
But then it's also a bit afterwards, like, right, well, this is showing me this. And yeah.
If you're going to make any long-term changes to the way your body works, then you've got to do them. You've got to involve your brain. So lying down, have someone poke, rub, prod you, will give you short-term effects, or stick needles in you, or rub your Achilles tendon. All of this stuff might modulate pain, but it's not going to have any long-term effects on the way your brain is wired and moves and works. So, they should be facilitating and not operating on you.
Ooh, nice. On that bombshell, guys, we're done. Thanks, Matt.
Thank you very much. Cheers, and thanks for watching. I hope it made a little bit of sense.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for watching.